You have a 6-hour layover. Your connecting flight doesn't board until midnight. The airport lounge is full, the gate chairs have armrests designed to stop you from lying down, and the floor is not an option. Most travelers in this situation just suffer through it. But right now, in airports across Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, there is something most people are walking right past: private sleep pods. And once you know they exist, you will never look at a long layover the same way again. So what exactly is a sleep pod? Picture a compact, enclosed sleeping space somewhere between a private booth and a small cabin. Most have a flat or reclined surface long enough to actually stretch out, a door or privacy screen that closes completely, a small light you control, a power outlet, sometimes a screen, and in many cases a ventilation system that blocks out the noise of the terminal around you. You book by the hour. You get in, you sleep, you leave. No check-in desk, no luggage storage queue, no hotel shuttle at 2 in the morning. The concept has roots in Japan's capsule hotel culture, which has existed since the late 1970s. But the airport sleep pod takes that idea and strips it down to one specific problem: the traveler who needs rest for a few hours, not an overnight stay. And that problem turns out to be extremely common. Travel reports and frequent flyer communities suggest that long layovers of 4 hours or more affect hundreds of millions of passengers every year globally. Until recently, the only real options were airport lounges, which require paid membership or a premium ticket, or finding a quiet corner and hoping for the best. Several airports are now changing that equation. In the Middle East, airports handling some of the world's busiest transit routes have been among the early adopters, offering pod-style rest spaces inside the secure terminal zone so travelers don't need to exit and re-enter security. In Europe, airports in Scandinavia and Central Europe have been testing modular pod installations near departure gates, available to any passenger regardless of ticket class. Across Southeast Asia, where budget carriers generate enormous volumes of multi-hour layovers, airport authorities and private operators have been rolling out pod areas that cater specifically to travelers who cannot justify a full hotel stay but desperately need more than a bench. One of the most watched operators in this space is a company called Napcabs, which has placed pods in airports including Munich. Another is GoSleep, a Finnish company whose reclining pod chairs have appeared in airports across the Gulf region and Asia. These are not luxury products. They are functional, clean, and priced by the hour in a range that many travelers describe as reasonable compared to a taxi ride to a nearby hotel and back. And that is the key misunderstanding most people carry. When travelers first hear about airport sleep pods, the assumption is often that they must be expensive or exclusive. In reality, many operators position them as an accessible middle ground, cheaper than a lounge day pass in some locations, and dramatically more practical than leaving the terminal. You pay for the time you actually use. If you need 3 hours, you pay for 3 hours. The spread of these pods also reflects something broader happening in how airports think about passenger experience. Airports are no longer just transit infrastructure. They are increasingly competing for transfer traffic, and a traveler who had a comfortable, restful layover at one hub is more likely to book through that hub again. Sleep pods are, in a quiet way, becoming part of airport strategy. There is also a practical detail worth knowing. In most installations, pods are located inside the secure airside zone, meaning you can sleep and still make your gate without going through security again. Some airports place them near international departure areas specifically for this reason. A few newer installations include luggage storage hooks, USB and universal power sockets, and ambient sound settings. Some even offer a wake-up alarm integrated into the pod itself. Is this replacing hotels? Not entirely. For long overnight stops, a proper hotel still makes sense. But for the 4 to 8 hour window that defines most layovers, sleep pods are filling a gap that hotels were never designed to cover. And as more travelers discover they exist, demand appears to be growing. Travel bloggers and airport guides are increasingly listing pod locations alongside lounge recommendations, which suggests the concept is moving from novelty to expected amenity. If you have never noticed a sleep pod at an airport, you are not alone. They tend to be tucked into quieter corners of terminals, away from the main retail flow. Most have no dramatic signage. They look, from a distance, like a row of small booths or lockers. But once you know what to look for, they are hard to miss and even harder to walk past when you have been awake for 18 hours. Next time you are planning a trip with a long connection, it is worth checking whether your layover airport has pods available before you fly. A few minutes of research could mean the difference between arriving exhausted and arriving ready. Would you use a sleep pod on your next layover? Drop your answer in the comments, and if you found this useful, subscribe for more global travel surprises you probably didn't know existed.